How's it going, family? I'm refurbishing my bench drill, and since I'm going to do a step-by-step, I'll show you the restoration of our bench drill. I need to take apart the motor bearings. For that, I have to remove this pulley. So, what happened? I went looking for it, and my pulley puller is missing. If I'm not mistaken, since I haven't used it in a long time, I must have lent it out recently. Who knows who I lent it to? I don't remember. It's been a long time, and whoever borrowed it never returned it. Now I need to remove this pulley. So I decided to make a pulley puller. I'm not going to make one of those three-legged pullers, because I'm going to make a puller that also works as a bearing puller. But I want to make it out of something recycled, because a puller is expensive. So I grabbed a motorcycle sprocket here. A 125 or 150 motorcycle sprocket. So using scrap, I'm going to make a pulley puller, which will also be a bearing puller for you guys, and show the step-by-step process. Shall we get started? First step, remove this cover. I'm going to put it in the vise and remove these rivets to take off this cover. Now I'm going to make a cut between one hole and another. I'll mark the center here. And I'll make this cut to separate the middle part. Now that I'm going to separate it, where this hole is, I'm going to place it here between it and the center here, and I'll make a cut here. Look, on this side, and this one I'll cut on the other side. So I make one cut on one side, the other on the other side. I'm not going to split it down the middle. I make one cut on the right side of the bottom hole, and on the top, on the left side. Now that we've split it like this, look, notice that I turn it. The two pieces are identical. So here I'm going to join the two pieces at this part here, which is where it will fit, both on the bearing and on the pulley, with the hole aligned, and with both pieces lined up, I'll clamp it here on the sample like this. I leave these two bottom parts where this notch will be together, so we can cut here. Now I'm going to cut this part here from both pieces to leave the hole. Now I'll take advantage of the two pieces being together, and in this hole, use a 3/8 drill bit, which matches the bolt size we'll use. With the flap disc, I'll already start finishing this piece. Now I'm going to take this piece with the cutting disc, and I'm going to do this look. It's important to remove this corner. When you grab it, it won't slip because it's rounded. Here I remove the corner. Look at the difference it makes. That's why it's important to do this part. Now that I've removed that corner, I'm going to go from this tip to that corner and make a mark. To remove this part here, to form a tip like a bearing puller. This is how we cut it and leave it as the original. This way you can grip both the pulley and the bearing better. So the ideal is to do what I just showed, and now we'll do it on the other piece as well. Now that these two pieces are ready, let's move on to the part that will join them together. So we'll use this leftover piece to make both sides. We'll carefully cut this piece here, 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 and here, so that we can use these two parts here. I'm going to bolt these two pieces together. I'll use the hole so they match. Clamp the two together so we can finish them and make both pieces identical. Take your time so both pieces turn out exactly the same, then just tighten them. I've tightened them, and now the two pieces are exactly the same. Now we can start using the flap disc to round them off, to make this piece look even better. With finishing and without finishing. See how it's worth taking your time to make it look good? Now I'm going to take this 1/2 inch threaded rod and cut it to 16 centimeters in length. On one end, I'll put two nuts and weld them together to finish it off, so that part can be tightened with a wrench to pull the pulley or the bearing. On the other end, I need to make a tip. Not a sharp point, but a nice tip, which is the part that goes onto the shaft to pull the pulley or the bearing. So here's a really good tip. I'm going to clamp it in the drill so I can grind it down with the angle grinder and keep this conical part of the rod well centered. After putting in a lot of effort and dedication, it is truly wonderful to see how everything has come together so nicely. The final result is even better than I expected, with every detail looking just right. The colors are bright and appealing, and the overall appearance is very pleasing. Seeing the finished work gives me a real sense of accomplishment and pride. It is amazing to look at what has been achieved after all the planning and hard work. I am genuinely happy with how nice it turned out, and I hope others will enjoy it as much as I do. It's really well centered, see? The tip is well centered, and that's what's important when we tighten it to pull the bearing and polish. Now that we've made the tip, it's time to put the nuts on the back here. I'm going to put on two nuts and weld them together, making sure they're aligned. Not because the bolt is going to spin here, it won't. We're going to weld it precisely to form the head so we can use a wrench to loosen the bearing. I'm going to weld it with self-shielded wire, the one nicknamed gasless MIG. I'm going to use the MIG Flex 160BV, which a lot of people had requested on the channel saying, "Fabio, it's been a while since you welded with it, so I'm going to weld with it," all using the self-shielded wire process, which is well known as the so-called gasless MIG. Now we're going to do the assembly. I'm going to use these recesses to leave them facing outward, especially because of the length of my bolt. If I assemble it like this, I'll need to use a longer bolt. If I assemble it this way, I can use a shorter one. So I'm going to use a 3/8 hex bolt that's 1 inch long, which fits perfectly here. So I'll turn the piece like this and go ahead and put the bolt in. I need to get the spacing right here so this threaded rod can pass through. So I'm going to put two 3/8 washers. I put two on each side. I place one piece on one side and another on the other. Now I add two more washers on one side and two on the other. I take the other piece and fit it with the recess facing out. Now I need to align the two pieces. Once they're aligned, I tighten it. Just a little bit, just enough to make it nice, solid, and firm. Now this particular bolt will stay right here in place, and I'll go ahead and put on a standard 1/2 inch nut to secure it. Put it right over here now, and let's carefully add another 1/2 inch nut. Now I need to center this piece very well, and using a 19mm wrench, tighten the other side. It's not too tight because I want to keep both nuts even. I don't want one nut facing one way and the other facing the opposite way out of alignment. So I'm going to align them well right here, like this. And now I'm going to tack weld each side. Don't try to weld it all at once because the nut might end up pulling the weld on one side and not on the other. When you go to weld it, the thread can get tight. This thread needs to stay completely smooth for tightening and loosening. I'm going to make sure this piece is well aligned and then tack weld it. I just tacked it and now I'm going to check if this piece is well centered. See, this piece is right in the center now, so I tack the other side. I go back and check, look, exactly in the center. Now, I'm going to adjust this bottom nut, make sure it's completely free, and then tack it. I check the thread, it's totally free, so now I tack it again. There, I tacked it and the thread is still free. Now I'm going to weld it. I've already finished it. Look how it turned out. Now if we leave it like this, when we start working, it's very likely that this nut could fall off, could come loose, and that's not what we want. So this side is good, but this one isn't. It's tight. So I'm going to loosen it a bit. It's still tight. I'll loosen it a little more. There, nice. Now we're going to tack weld it so this nut won't come off anymore. If we ever need to do maintenance, we just cut it off and put another one on. All done. I put a spot weld inside. It won't come out now, and our tool turned out great. Look how nice that is. Honestly, reusing scrap material. Now it's time to test it because I made this tool exactly for my needs. So let's go and see if it's going to work. I sprayed some lubricant here and now it's time to test it. I need to remove this pulley from the motor to open up the motor of my bench drill. So I'm going to put it here and center it. I'm going to turn it by hand until it touches. There, it's touching. Now I can use a combination wrench, either the open or box end, or a ratchet to work on the bolt. I usually prefer the ratchet because it's faster and makes the job easier, especially when I need to turn the bolt several times. Let's go ahead and get started. Oh, that's wonderful. The tool is working just as I hoped. It worked great, and now everything is all done. See how cool and impressive that is? This is a very affordable tool made from leftover scrap materials that will work really well and serve its purpose effectively.